Welcome to the ST2K show, Horrible Job Experiences Part 4. The fourth time we're doing this. There's more horror stories to tell. This time with two different guests, Tibbs and Nikki. How's it going?
Hello.
Hey.
I couldn't really pronounce your name. I don't know if it's Achilles or I can't fail. I can't say it.
I can't pronounce it either.
Yeah, I have no idea what that means.
It's like it says Achlys Acharon. Is that a Pokemon?
Close enough.
She's big into anime.
Oh, okay. All
It's
right.
not anime, it's Greek.
Oh, whatever.
All right. And so most of you who usually, 5 of you that usually watch our channel know who Tibbs is. And so Nikki is his lovely fiance. And she is joining the S2K show for the first time. So welcome
She's the one
aboard.
that's always making fun of me and sassing me in the background.
Yeah. All right, and so they're going to get started with their horror stories. Last time we did a podcast like this was last summer when my job had closed down, and it was the perfect time to talk about my horror stories. And so now we're going to hear from Tibbs and Nikki. So whoever wants to go first, just dive right in and have fun ripping apart whatever job you had.
All right. Well, we don't necessarily have as much freedom, I guess you could say, as you did because we still work there. So I don't want to drop any names or, anything like that. But I'm just going to give you a general overview, and boy, do I have one. I work in a restaurant several restaurants out at the airport. And what I do is I wash dishes, mop floors, basically all the back of the house stuff, the kind of stuff that most people sometimes look down on, but Ronnie, no restaurant can function without those people. Yeah. And everyone that I work with says that I'm like the most reliable person we have. So I get
the only reliable.
Oh, thank you. I get a lot of respect from them and from the managers I work with, but because it's a corporate company, I know that they think we're all just numbers. I mean, the company can say all they want that everyone's appreciated, but in the grand scheme of things, I know we're just numbers. But let's begin with the story. Okay. For those of you who don't know, in a restaurant, when you have fryer laters, the thing that they cook your fries and your chips and all that stuff in, I got to make sure people know what I'm talking about. Nikki's right here making fun of me as I talk, by the way.
I'm not doing anything.
We're trying to sit as far apart from each other so it doesn't echo too much, but we are in the same room.
Yeah, there's some lingo that some people might hear. They might not understand it if they don't work in a restaurant. So I understand.
Yeah.
You have to explain certain things.
So anyway, every week, 2 weeks, however long the oil in your fryer later lasts, you're supposed to empty it into something. Different places use different vats. Then you take it outside and dump it. It gets recycled, blah, 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 blah. Well, in our restaurant, we have the type that you roll it along the ground. It's not the type that you can pick up. You see, it's hard to explain without visuals, but it doesn't matter. You'll get the gist of the story. At one of our restaurants, the cooks, for whatever reason, at the end of the night when they clean off their grill, instead of disposing of the stuff they scrape off correctly, they put it into like a pickle bucket, which they shouldn't be doing. They do anyway. And we just toss it when it's done because you can't recycle that stuff. However, some jackass, some idiot decided to dump that stuff into the thing that we put our old fryer oil in. Now that might not sound like such a big deal, but let me tell you why. For one thing, when we go to empty it into the the oil recycled container, whatever you want to call it, if it's all that grimy shit that's off the grill, if it's contaminated, it can't be recycled and it costs money. But that's not the part that I was concerned about. The chemical that we use on the grills to break all that stuff down still lingered in those fry vats. So as a result, when the oil was emptied into one of them, the remnants of that grill cleaner did exactly what it's supposed to do, and it volcanoed all over the floor. And Ronnie has seen the picture of what that floor looked like afterwards.
Yeah, and here's
It
the picture
was
right here.
a
I'm gonna. Here's the picture he's talking about right here. Look at that. That's ridiculous.
nightmare, man. And we had to put flour on it because we didn't have any like rock salt or that sawdust shit that janitors use. So
Yeah.
that's the best thing we could think of. And I was fit to be tied. Let me tell you, when my manager came in, and I think I went to grab her actually. She was in the office doing paperwork or something. I think I grabbed her, and not literally. I brought her in. And I lost it. That was the closest I ever came to being like, I am sick. I told her, I'm sick and tired of this crap. I'm always cleaning up after other people. And this technically happened 3 times. Once to the cook who was there with me that night, another cook, and I wasn't there that night with him. And then this night, it was me and the other cook. And she was sweet enough, not my manager, the other cook, she was sweet enough to clean most of it up, but I had to pull, because of course it gravitated to the wall where we have our racks for our clean dishes and a cooler and everything. So the next night, I had to pull all that stuff out. Thankfully, it was mostly dry by then, so I was able to scrape it off, and it came up fine after a couple days. But the point, Nikita was there. I was so mad. I even told, as my manager was leaving, I said, they were both standing there. I was like, it's crap like this that sometimes makes me not want to work here anymore. And the last time I got a raise, I said to her, I was like, the cooks make $14 an hour now, and I'm still not even at 13. I've been there 10 friggin' years, and a lot of them haven't been there, but a year or two. And a lot of them bitch and complain and are lazy, and they get paid more than me. And she agreed. Unfortunately, that corporate bullshit, she has to get permission and whatnot to give all raises. She actually told me last week that it's not going to happen. But
Yeah.
And then there's actually a piece of this that Ronnie doesn't know, because this almost happened again. A couple weeks ago, I think it was, right? A couple weeks
It
ago.
was, yeah.
We have 2 of those fry things, because we have 4 different units that use them, so one just doesn't cut it. And Nikita works at a Burger King there, so she asked me to bring it up to her. And I happened to notice that one of them, because we keep them outside, was full. So I'm like, okay, I'll empty it. But before that, I noticed there were a few pickle buckets around it, because it's near the trash area, so I was dumping my trash at the time. I noticed there were a few pickle buckets out there next to it. So before I emptied it, I went over to the pickle buckets and opened them up, and sure as hell, there was all that shit from the grill in them. And I was like, you son of a bitch. I went and I opened up the flap on the vat where you dump the oil in, and sure enough, someone again had dumped all that shit in there. I tell you what, I took a picture. I think I put that on Facebook too.
I think
Took a
I've seen
picture.
that. I think I might have seen that one
Yep.
too.
I sent it to that cook I'm working with. She's a supervisor now. I sent it to her. I sent it to my manager, and I went upstairs and showed my other manager. I was like, this crap has got to stop, because you're not supposed to be doing it, for one thing. If someone empties that shit into the oil, when waste management or whoever comes to recycle it, they're not going to be able to, and they'll probably fine us for that if it keeps on happening. And not only that, but someone had dumped it into the other one too. So when I took it to Burger King, Nikita had to flush it out with water so that it wouldn't react the chemical again, and that hurt her arm. So it's just, as the saying goes, it was the biggest clusterfuck you can imagine. And over the years, I have other stories too to tell, believe me. I actually have another one. So that's basically that story. That's the one that's fresh in my mind, and one that I still will talk about. I asked every one of our cooks, who did it? And if you own up to it, say it was a mistake, okay. Just don't do it again. We all make mistakes. I've made mistakes. I'll make more. That's just how it goes. We're a team. I can rise above. But every single one of them denied it, and worse than that, gave me the, oh man, that sucks. I'm so sorry. So one of them knew fully well and just didn't have the balls or didn't care. And I'm sorry for my foul language, but I'm very passionate about my job. So I'm very passionate when people screw me over. I mean, trust me. I've been at that place for 10 years. I got enough stroke to be able to do this stuff.
Yeah.
The only other story off the top of my head I can think of, I know there's been a lot, but the other one I can think was maybe 5, 6 years ago. The kitchen, one of our kitchens, had at the time this really small pump that whenever you would empty the sinks would pump the water out because the pipe was like above, it wasn't below, something like that is details I don't remember. But if you emptied more than one sink at a time, it would overflow this pump and get all over the floor. And it used to happen several times a week, and we all had to clean it, including me. Well, one night, the closing cook did just that. I don't know whether he didn't care or he forgot. It got all over the floor. And now this cook was incredibly lazy. He used to send his dishes down to me to wash, and he would say, well, I ain't no dishwasher, I'm just a cook. Now, at that particular restaurant, the restaurant I work at has a dishwasher, but the one he worked at didn't. But they're supposed to keep all their dishes over there unless they ask me first. You ask me first, I will help you. That night he didn't ask. He just brought, and that's what he said, I ain't no dishwasher. I wanted to punch him then. But this other night, kitchen flooded like that, and instead of saying, oh, Mike, can you give me a hand here? Because it can take a long time we don't have a wet vac or anything. It can take a long time to clean water off of a floor if there's a lot of it. And I would have helped him. You know what he did instead? He's like, oh, I ain't got time to do this. I got to go. And he just took off and left me with it. And
Man.
let me tell you, that to me, considering that how much I had helped him, I thought that was... He didn't really apologize. He just acted like it wasn't his job, like it was too good for him or something, and he left.
Did he get fired?
Anyway, eventually, yes, but for something else.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what it's like to work with people that will just, like, well, it's not my job, this and that. And you know what? I mean, I can understand if it gets extreme, like I explained in the last podcast we did, where they had me go way beyond my job description and paint the parking lot, which is stupid. Stuff like that's different. But if, like, there's a lot of stuff that comes with the territory of where you work at, like oh, it's not my job, you just, but yet, I mean, at the same time, it is or should be somewhat your job to at least go in there, because I see cooks at jobs I worked at, they'll go to the dish area if there's no dishwasher, and then like spray out or wash whatever they need to have ran through. And then
Right.
you know, take it back to their station. And I've worked with a lot of people that will say, oh, well, it's not my job, or they should do that. Then when I opened up Chewy's in 2010, I helped open up the place. One of the morning busters was like, man, it's too cold outside. I'm not going to pick up trash out there. And I was like, fine, I'll do it. I went out there and did it, and because of that, I found $5. And Texas Roadhouse, the same thing happened years before that. I don't want to pick up trash in the parking lot. I go, fine, I'll do it. It was our opening duty, and I did it, and I found money in that parking lot too, $10. And I walked back in there, and I told that buster, you see this? I found this in the parking lot. If you would have been so lazy, you would have gotten the $10. And so, yeah, I've worked with a lot of people that would say, oh, it's not my job. I don't want to do it. It's too cold or this or that. And so it actually paid off for me. I would get rewarded for it. And I think with that Chewy's, it actually was intended, because there was a rumor going around saying the general manager would randomly plant small dollar bills or maybe a $5 bill in around the perimeter of the restaurant to make sure busters were actually picking up trash in the parking lot. And I was like, wow, well, there's my reward. I mean, if other people would stop being lazy and complaining, it's too cold, I ain't going to go out there, huh? These young 20-year-old entitled Degeneration X or Generation Y, whatever they're called, kids that don't want to work and complain. I feel you on that.
And the thing is, you know this, Ronnie, working in restaurants for so long, you're a team. It doesn't matter whether it's the cook, managers, bussers, dishwashers, we all have our own part to play. And like I said, I've been working there for a long time. And you ask anyone, because I don't just wash dishes and mop floors and stuff. I do, well, I don't do inventory, but I grab stuff from the stock rooms that the units need each day. I'll do that on the spot, and I don't always have time, but I do it primarily so that, because this is the way I look at it, and most people in my position, like the dish pigs, quote unquote, wouldn't, but I think this is what makes me different. I will do what's best for everyone. Sometimes maybe to a fault, I think of others too much, but the way I look at it is I can handle my stuff. If someone else needs help, because the other people, like the servers, they can't leave the unit. They got tables at Starbucks. They can't leave the register. They got people. If there's something they need, I feel like it's my duty as their coworker and friend to help them out. And that's stuff that they respect, my managers respect. Oh, but one other thing I wanted to mention, speaking about the respect, this will be the last thing I tell, and then I'll throw it over to my lovely fiance, who has, I know a few stories. She stick her tongue out at me, a few stories here. The managers have this irritating habit, and I know it's not always their fault. In the wintertime, my position has 2 shifts, 7 to 3 and 2 to 10, although that 10 is vague because it depends on when we close and all that stuff. So every now and then the morning person might not be there because they're late or they got to call out, things happen and not all shifts get filled. So instead of calling me in early so that way I can make sure stuff doesn't fall behind, and whatnot, lately they have not been doing it. And like 3-4 times in the last couple of months it's happened. And when I get there, there's dishes piled halfway between the sink and the ceiling, like no joke. There's trash all over. And I have to rush around to get all this stuff done. And they act like, the cooks can help and this, that. Well, if we're busy, the cooks don't have time to help. You call me in early. And I have a sneaking suspicion that one of the reasons they don't is the overtime thing. My company does not like overtime, especially since we got some new higher management now.
Mm-hmm.
But it happens. And maybe this will sound conceited, but out of all the people there, at least with me, you're getting your money's worth. And it seems like every day this happens, every day they don't call me, is a day that one of our higher managers was there visiting. So that kind of took their attention away. So essentially they forgot us. They forgot me. And I didn't realize, and I even told my manager, I'm like, again, I don't want to drop any names here, so I don't want to disrespect anyone, because I do appreciate and respect my managers. I said, I don't like being forgotten like that. I do so many favors for you guys. I've stayed overnight to watch like contractors doing stuff. I'll come in on the spot, come in on my days off, and you guys can't. I know you don't want me to get overtime, but it's too bad. This work has to get done, and I'm willing to come in on the spot to do it. Take advantage of that. But because someone from corporate is visiting us, we're forgotten. And the thing is, our new corporate manager that we got, I'll be honest, I don't really like the guy. Because our old corporate manager, man, he was always there. He would do Manchester too in New Hampshire, that airport. But whenever he was at our airport for like 2 weeks, a month at a time, he'd be there every day. He'd come by. He was such a nice guy. He didn't feel like corporate. He felt like a friend. I liked it when he was there. But this new guy, he didn't even, when he showed up, you would think if a new person comes in, well, new to us, not new to the company, you would take that person around to all your key players, your supervisors, your leads, your shift leaders, all the people that these are the people you can count on. These are the people that know this place the best and know their jobs the best, which, again, hope this doesn't sound conceited, but I don't care if it does. That would also include me. Not only did I not get introduced to the guy, but he said one word to me, just one word, I think in the entire time he's been there. There was a day we were incredibly busy, and he wasn't really helping. And he goes to me, busy? And I just wanted to slap the glasses off his face. It's like, oh, you asshole.
Now, what exactly did he mean by that?
Well, and because it was one of those days where we were balls to the wall, like every seat was filled, and he might have been helping other people, I don't know, but the guy, he didn't even know my name. I feel like considering how long I've been there and how good of a reputation I have, he should at least know my name. But I don't even, to this day, he's been with us like a year now. I don't think he does. He's never introduced himself to me, never struck up a conversation with me. That's the only thing he ever said to me, was he said it in kind of this condescending way, like, you busy?
Oh,
I
okay,
thought
it
to
was
myself,
condescending.
yeah,
Yeah.
I am. Yeah,
Yeah.
I am. So either help me or get the hell out of the way so I can do my job, because I'm the best you've got.
I know, right? It's like, yeah, I'm busy. Why don't you shut up and help out? I mean, of course, you can't say that to him, but you wish you could without getting fired. And yeah, it's just, yeah, I know what you mean. Like, big time corporate people will look down on you, and I know what you mean. It sounds real familiar to what I experienced recently when we first opened my job. We had this air direct or regional manager, technically it's what they're called, regional manager, who was with us since day one in September. He recently is in a different region now, and we got a new regional manager. Now, I don't know anything about the new regional manager. I can't say anything good or bad about him, but the one that just left, he came in Friday night to say goodbye to people, and I was one of the people that he said goodbye to, and he shook my hand and right in front of the general manager and said, hey, I want to know, I want you to know that, I appreciate the hard work you've done here. You're a man of honor, and I've always, since day one, you've always done a great job here and worked very hard. I've always appreciated what you do here, and I'm just a busser. And so I said, thank you very much. I appreciate you telling me this. That makes me feel great coming from the regional manager. And even on the first week we opened, he even said that. He goes, yeah, you're doing a great job, by the way. And even corporate people above him were like noticing what I was doing. And my friend Kyle, who's my boss right now, he told me, yeah, he was asking about you, saying, what's the deal with that busser? Oh, that's Ronnie, man. I brought him over from Johnny Carino's. And, well, he's doing real good. And yeah, the corporate people are even appreciating me, and that was real good. And so, yeah. And then, of course, I've worked for I can't really think of any bad area director I've had to deal with, but I can see where the one we had at Carino's, to me personally, he never did anything or said anything wrong to me, but actually he did say something good to me. When we were shutting the place down, he gave me his card, shook my hand, and said, thank you very much for your hard work. I really appreciate it. If you need a referral or anything, give me a call. So that was the first time I really ever got to talk to him, was after we had officially closed down. And he thanked me for, I guess he had heard about me or seen me working there in the short time he took over the store. And then before I left the final time, he shook my hand, and I guess he was really, he really appreciated me coming in and being one of the people to help clear the place out and close it down. So he did say some good things about me, so that was pretty cool. But he wasn't as personable as the one that we had before that. The one we had before that, the very first time he stepped foot in Carino's, he went to each and every one of us and shook our hand and got our name, and he was very personable.
That's cool.
And that was cool. Like, went to each and every, usually air directors would come in, we'd probably nod to you, and maybe they're probably not trying to be disrespectful, but they'll just kind of nod to you, or maybe like just not even talk to you at all. This guy took the time to go to each and every one of us in the kitchen that morning and shake our hands and get our name. And so we need more corporate people like that.
That's how it should be.
That's exactly how it should be. And if you've listened to, I won't get into it. We're going to pass it on to Nikki here in a second. The Horrible Job Experiences podcast part 2, J-Man talks a little bit about his area director. And he told me in private, off the record, stuff about him and how much of a ridiculous stickler he was. If you had one stubble of beard on your face, one little tiny stubble that nobody hardly noticed, oh, you need a shave. Dude, chill. I mean, it was ridiculous. But yeah, I wish we had. Air directors need to be more personable, just because they're so much above you. I mean, I'm just a busser, and I mean, I'm not trying to degrade myself when I say that, but in the hierarchy, I'm one of the lowest people on the totem pole, and this guy is a regional manager, giving me a personal comment, a compliment like that.
Well, I tell you, Ronnie, in the restaurants that I work at, we don't have like a designated busser. The girls usually take care of their own tables. But let me tell you something. When it's incredibly busy and every seat is full and you got people waiting to be seated, I wish we had an extra person. Sometimes I'll do it if I have a second person in the kitchen. I'll go around and bust tables. And there have been times where we're so busy, I literally have to bring the cart around with me and grab every table in one swoop. And then by the time you're done, you got more. So, and especially in those busy, like a busy restaurant where you're full, like 3, 4, 5 hours at a crack, I don't know how you do it. So my hat, if I was wearing one, would be off to you, sir, because the bus boys save asses, believe me.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's I know it's not the hardest job, but it still can be hard work, and the stress and frustration of it all. I didn't think I would be doing it for 16 years. My first month or so into it, I was thinking of quitting already. Then I somehow grew into it and got used to it, and it helped. If anything, it helped develop my work ethic. It's not
Very good.
especially depending on the restaurant. It's not. I mean, it's easy. It's not like rocket science or anything, but it's still not just physically, but it still can be mentally taxing. So.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we're going to pass on to the lovely Nikki, who's going to tell us maybe some ECW stories.
Well, I don't know about ECW, but I'll do my best.
Okay.
No, my very first job was McDonald's. Probably, I don't know, I want to say I was 19, 20 maybe. And I had been originally trained for the kitchen. Well, my very first day, not only am I not on the kitchen, but they throw me on the front counter where I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. So supposedly somebody was supposed to be with me to help me train while I helped customers. That person disappeared on me from the morning I got there till for like probably 4 or 5 hours into my shift. I don't know what I was doing. Wasn't helping customers. It was a disaster. I was getting orders wrong. I was overcharging people. I think for one gentleman, just for his meal and 2 Happy Meals, came to almost $40.
Whoa.
Yeah. My register had to be like taken care of 2 or 3 times because after we accumulate a certain amount of money, they switch them out. And finally, after at least 100 complaints, they finally opened up another register, let me take my break, and I was just so exhausted and frustrated. I actually went into the bathroom and broke down and started crying. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
So after my break, I finished my shift. They finally had someone with me. And right then and there, after my shift was over, I looked right at my manager. It's like, this isn't happening. You didn't put me where you were supposed to. I had no idea what I was doing. And the person you were supposed to give me, you took. So needless to say, I actually ended up quitting that job.
Yeah.
Which is too bad because I think it would have been a good job, but
Yeah.
it was oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I worked. The only fast food job I ever had was Sonic, and I quit after 1 month because the money was terrible. I was a cook and not that good. I mean, I did get better as the month progressed. I was actually get some compliments here and there, but I need to work on my speed and pay attention to when the order's put in on the screen, all that stuff. And I'm not made to be in the kitchen. That's one of the reasons why I don't cook and anywhere else I've been to. If I can't handle fast food, how am I going to handle a family restaurant, right, in the kitchen?
Right.
But Sonic, but the money wasn't that good anyway. And then, like, I lived with my mom at the time, and me and my mom were on. No, actually, yeah, that's when I had to get a job because I was like past 17 or 18, and our food stamps get cut off when the child reaches a certain age because we're old enough to work now. Get your butt out there and work. So that's why I got a job, and then I would have to spend like $60 of that, I think, every 2 weeks to help me and my mom out with groceries. And sometimes my checks would be able to be like $50 or $60. The highest I ever got was 80. We got paid every week. The highest I ever got was 80. But most of the time it'd be like maybe 50 or 60. And so after groceries, I would have nothing left over for myself. I mean, granted, I wasn't paying bills or anything in the house, but I still would like to have a job where I can save some money up and spend it here and there every once in a while. The job I had before that, I was a janitor in my high school, and I got paid much more over there. But I left because I graduated high school and I was trying to do something else to get out of the school and work somewhere else. And then Sonic only lasted 1 month, and I was like, I got hired at Texas Roadhouse. And that same day, I'd even put in my 2 weeks, which I kind of felt bad about. I should have done that, but I at least called them up and told them before I had to go in that day, I just got hired at this new job, and they want me to start tonight. So even if I wanted to put in my 2 weeks, I probably couldn't, because it's either go there or stay at Sonic and not get paid much. And I could not pass up the opportunity to go work at Texas Roadhouse. And that was the beginning of my busing career, August 4th, 2000. And I've been doing it ever since. And but yeah, the fast food restaurant just, to me, did not pay good. Maybe others did, like Wendy's, McDonald's, Burger King. I don't know. I just know that Sonic did not. I think back then in Texas, minimum wage was $5.15, $5.25 an hour, and yeah, it wasn't worth it to me. I was like, I don't see myself working here that long. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, fast food, the kitchen's not really bad. I prefer it to actually dealing with customers. But my second job actually was a year and a half, I want to say it lasted, and that was at Hannaford Supermarkets. I worked in the deli. Awesome job. Most of the crew was pretty great. We did get some interesting customers now and then, but there were a couple of coworkers that we always had this one certain lady. She had to be at least in her 60s, and when it came to her meats and cheeses, she was very peculiar on how they were cut. And because she was so picky, they didn't like helping her. So instead of just quietly doing this somewhere else, right in front of her, they would literally do rock, paper, scissors to see who would help her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is like not only why we're busy, but it got to the point where it's like, you know what, you go take care of other people, I'll take care of her. She really wasn't all that bad.
Yeah.
Um, but these few coworkers, I mean, they were bad. One of them was a girl from Rhode Island, and literally every 10 seconds she was saying she felt faint, she was tired. Or I remember there was a day when it was the end of my shift and I was waiting for the bus to go home, and literally 10 minutes into her shift, I see her walking out because they sent her home because they just didn't want to deal with her. And then when she got pregnant, oh, it got worse.
Yeah.
But that job wasn't too bad. There were a couple of, I wouldn't say bad incidents, but a few interesting ones. Manager wasn't too bad. The only real thing was those two coworkers. But yeah, that job lasted me a little bit longer, and I gave that one up because I actually moved further away, so I couldn't do it anymore. But I've had a few other jobs over the years. The one that's lasted me the longest is the airport one. And I tell you what, working at a Burger King, like Mike said, the really only problem I ever had was with the whole fryer and the oil thing. If I didn't have the good sense to ask him about it, I would have volcanoed all over our floor, which I've actually already had happened to me once. But there was this one incident. I want to say Mike had the day off. We have a new coworker who doesn't really speak English very well or doesn't really understand it too well. And we had this one customer who was just being an absolute jerk. There are certain questions we're supposed to ask to get the customer's order right. That's all he was doing, was asking the proper questions, and the guy was just like, whatever it comes with. You know, when it came to like, when the question was asked for what size, he was just like, well, whatever it comes with. Well, there's 3 different sides. You got to choose. And you could tell my coworker was getting irritated, so I stepped in. I asked what the problem was. and he literally looked at me and said that he wanted to speak to a manager because he's tired of these foreigners being in jobs when they don't understand proper English.
Wow.
So yeah, I looked right at him like, sir, if you have a problem with who we hire, then you have the freedom to go somewhere else.
Right.
And that he got really irate. Then eventually it did take us calling a manager over, and the manager to some degree did stand up for the coworker, but when the passenger had left, he actually turned on me and started yelling at me because I actually stuck up for my coworker, like I would think anybody would. Saying that the first thing that should have been done was a manager should have been called, and it's like, well, we tried. Our managers are a little lack in their presence, to say that they're usually never around when you actually need them.
Yeah.
But
I remember one time at Whataburger, this guy made a complicated order. I wish Bon Kwee from Mad TV was working because she would have got all over him. Complicated order because this was a complicated order, and he got mad at them for not understanding it. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, idiot, you're making a real complicated freaking order. I mean, it was like, I forgot what it was, but it was one of those special orders where they're not used to taking, and it was hard to understand, like this on top of this, and then this mixed with this special sauce or whatever the heck. Like, it was a very unusual order. And because I listened to the whole thing, and he started kind of yelling, and then I think he kind of yelled at the cooks in the back, if y'all spit my food, there's going to be trouble. And I'm like, sit down, tough guy. He trying to look all intimidating like a punk rocker or something. And usually there's a cop in there, but that's only around midnight or so when the drive-through.
Make my day.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, stop making stupid, complicated orders. You can't get mad at them because they don't understand what the heck you're talking about. I understand that it may be frustrating for them to not understand what you're talking about, but at least take into consideration that what you're ordering is unusual, and don't get mad at them because they don't know how to take this complicated order. I mean, I wish one of them would have been like Bon Kwee, like, security. He complicated order. He needs to go. And so, but yeah, some people, I can, Tibbs just told me, I don't know how you do it, Ronnie, as a busser. I don't know how you guys do it in fast food place and customer service. That right there, that's one of the reasons why I don't want to serve. I don't want to deal with rude guests that really make your day horrible and then stiff you with a tip on top of that.
Well, speaking of rude guests, Ronnie, we work in an airport, which is a little bit different, and I'll explain why. When customers can be dicks, period. We all know that.
Mm-hmm.
But when they have a flight to catch, it's even worse.
Oh, God.
People will come up. I mean, fast food's one thing, but at our other restaurants, like the one I primarily work at, it's a seafood restaurant where like lobster can take a while to boil, whatever. People will come in and they will order something that takes 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes to get, when they only have 5 minutes.
Or
and
less.
they expect it to be done right then and right there, because guess what? They have a flight to catch, and it is imperative that they make it. And if they don't, they will blame you, they will blame the airline people, they will blame anyone they can but themselves. Like they should. And pilots are the same thing. Even TSA can be the same way. They expect to be served first. We actually had, this is a good story. This isn't like a bad, I think this is kind of cool. During the last World Cup, or the Super Bowl, any big sports things, the restaurants fill up, especially the World Cup, because everyone knows it, everyone watches it. Yeah. We had this one pilot, even though his gate was right across the way from our restaurant, he stayed in our restaurant and watched the World Cup and caused his flight to be delayed because he it's awesome. It's like he I don't know if he forgot, or he's like, no, I got to see this game. But he actually, because of him, that flight got delayed because he was busy watching the World Cup in our restaurant.
Was that before me?
No, I don't remember.
Wow. I remember at the Elite Cafe, this big party came in, probably 20 or so maybe. And they said, yeah, but we got to get seated quickly. We got to be out of here in an hour. Okay, there's 20 of you. and you expect to have your order ready and then eat it all within 1 hour? That's stupid. And then this woman came in one time complaining about her and her kids. Well, order's taking too long. We got to see a movie here in 30 minutes. Why go to the restaurant at around that time if you only have 30 minutes to eat? Go to a fast food place or something for fast food. Don't go to a family restaurant and sit there and then we got to make a movie here in 30 minutes. So it's like 11 o'clock, 11:30. We got a movie to catch at noon. They're taking too long with their food. Can you check what's going on? And I'm thinking, well, I went to Jericho mode. You stupid idiot. You come in here 30 minutes before the movie starts and expect to be done? No, it takes, depending on what you and your kids order.
List.
Yeah, really. There's a lot of people that made the list of that job. But, yeah, I just don't understand. Like, I'm terrible at math, but how stupid are people to think they can come in and they must not know how the restaurant business works. They must not never worked in the restaurant. I knew this girl that I worked with, and she said, if I have kids one day, I'm going to make sure my kids work in a restaurant for at least 1 year so they can know what it's like and be considerate of people and understand what these people go through. And it's a good way to really learn a work ethic and responsibility and how to treat people right by working in a restaurant for 1 year.
That's right. And I find that now when we go to restaurants, I actually treat people a lot differently. Like, I make sure I always tip very well when I can, especially if it's busy, because I know that's how a lot of the servers make their living.
We pile dishes.
And yeah, we make sure all the dishes are at the edge of our table where they can easily get it piled as neatly as possible. If they make a mess, I clean it up. Very polite, even if the person's not exactly the nicest person in the world. You don't know how their day's going. It can be very hard to keep that smile on your face all day long, and it's not even my job to do so because I work in the back. And when it's busy and food's taking a while, I just wait because, you don't know what's going on back there, and especially like if it's a steak dinner or something like that, it's going to take some time. So that's why we always make sure we have plenty of time. And it doesn't happen often, but the rare times that an order is taken in wrong or is brought out wrong, most of the time I'll just leave it and enjoy it anyway because, things like that happen.
Yeah, and some people that never worked in a restaurant don't understand what it's like to be stiffed. When you do a good job and you still get stiffed, like a $100 tab, you only get like $3 or something. It's like, come on. And like most restaurants, I think, 15% tip out is what is suggested. And if you have at least a party of 8 or more, it's like gratuity is added onto the bill. And I remember, I think years ago, at least here in Texas, I think a law was passed where restaurants cannot force gratuity on a ticket, no matter how many people it is. So if you're going to wait on 20 people, let's say someone is a beast and pulls off waiting on 20 people by themselves, and the tab is, I don't know, $300 or $400, and they get nothing, they get no tip, that's supposed to be right? Oh, well, legally it is. Yeah, well, morally it's not, and ethically it's not. And I remember my friend said, I bet some stupid congressman came into a restaurant one night with a bunch of people and had gratuity on the receipt and thought, this is stupid. We shouldn't be forced to leave any tip at all. We're going to pass a law saying we should be forced to do this. It's ridiculous. People like that don't know what it's like. And that's why I agreed with my friend when she said she's going to make sure her kids work at least for 1 year in the restaurant business when they get old enough to work, just to know what it's like so that they can, when they go out to eat, they can know how to treat people.
It's actually funny you mentioned that, Ronnie, because I had a family member who was a waitress for a little bit, and literally on the receipt where you can add in the tip, a person wrote, "You want a tip? Go to college and get a better job." Oh.
Yeah, that stuff is horrible. I've seen pictures of that stuff, and one time this woman wrote, "God gets 10%. Why do you get 15?" I'm like, really? Wow, way to spread the love of God there and lead by example with the light of Christ. A good job. That's ridiculous.
And all right, here's the thing. Reservoir Dogs is one of my favorite movies, and the speech that Mr. Pink gives at the beginning about not believing in tipping, he does make some good points, but at the same time, you can tell he's never worked in a restaurant or he'd have a different tone. People do live and die by those tips, and whether it's like it is overseas where they've abolished tipping, but they have a special, like you said, gratuity on each tab or whatever. The servers, they need, and it's like any other thing where you tip, like a barber or anything like that. Tipping is a big part of a lot of these jobs, and unless the person is downright mean and really messes up the order, like is just a rotten person, I will always tip well. And even then, I probably would, because you don't know how how bad the person's day is. But I have a good story and a bad story to tell regarding this. And not involve me, but a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, a server who I've known since the day I started, for like 10 years. Not that long ago, she had this party come in. It must have been like 4 or 5 people. No, it wouldn't have been that much. Maybe 2 people. That's right, it was 2 people. And it's a seafood restaurant, so we can get up there pretty good. And the tab was, I think, $120. I think they had full lobster dinners and maybe got a couple to go. And they didn't give her anything. I think they even wrote 0 on the tip line, which is even worse. And I felt so bad for her. I wanted to find those people. Like, are you kidding me? And we weren't slow that day. We were pretty busy. And lobster takes a long time to prepare, and you got to grab it from the tank, and to box them up takes time. And the servers do all that themselves. So that was rough. But then the same girl once, guy left his credit card at our restaurant, and she had it mailed back. She took the time to have it mailed back to him. And then not only did he send in a letter to the company about that, but he also made sure she got $50 out of the deal, which I thought was really nice of him to do so. You don't see much of that.
Yeah, that's good. I remember finding, I think, $20 one time under a table or on a, I think people, I found it on the floor or something. I turned it to the manager. Someone called in asking for it, and they said, you know what, give $10 to the person that turned it in. So the manager gave me $10 out of that for
That's cool.
doing the right thing. I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, and I mean, I believe in, I didn't expect anything in return. I just really, I wouldn't feel right picking it up. Even if it's on the floor, oh, it's free for all. And I mean, if I was out in the street somewhere and I seen a $20 bill blowing in my way, well, that's different. But I'm in a restaurant. Someone was in there and actually dropped that money on the floor, or if it might have been meant for the tip, but it fell on the floor. And
Right.
it's one of the things my job I'm at now, Old Chicago, talked about during orientation. One of my managers, Gilbert, said integrity is very important. One time he found, I think, a bunch of extra money behind the dumpster somewhere, or on the ground, and I think it was one of the people from the armored truck cars that delivered the money, and they
Yep.
had somehow left it for some reason got left behind there or near the dumpster area or something. I forget. Somebody got loose, and I think he kept it and turned it in to them, let them know, hey, you lost a lot of money over here. And it's all about integrity. That's very important. And in today's world, integrity is kind of lame because it's not cool.
Yeah, I know, right?
And
Before we wrap this up, one other story I got, which you mentioning Party of 20 reminded me of this. I'm not sure if Nikki knows the story or not. This was before she started with us, but several years ago we had a party because we work in an airport that's run by the city of Portland. We often cater stuff for the city, and usually in one of the conference rooms. But on this particular day, they actually had a meeting in one of our restaurants because there was a lot of people. I think like 15, 20 people. So we had to take block a whole section off to line up the tables. We had 2 of our servers serve them exclusively, and another one go down to the conference room to serve them because it was right after the section of the airport that we're in open. So it was like official stuff. And I was in the kitchen washing dishes and whatnot, like I always do, because a big party is going to be a lot of dishes. Our corporate manager, or you put it better, regional manager, the old one, the one I liked, came in, put his hand on my shoulder, and he's like, Mike, Big Mike, that's what he called me. He said to me, is there any way you could hold off on doing dishes for a little while because they can hear it out there? And I thought to myself, I said to him, I was like, I can't. Dishes are piling up out there because we got a full house. And he could tell I was a little irritated by that. So he just told me to lower my voice, calm down a little bit. And then he's like, no big deal. I just had to ask. He only asked as a formality for them. He knew the answer, so he was doing what they asked him to do, but he never expected me to stop because he knew that that's my job. And afterwards, I even told him, why, because you got kids around, there's announcements over the PA. It's like, if you need to have a meeting like that with quiet, why would you have it in the middle of a crowded airport on a busy day?
yeah. Yeah. Nikki, you have any more to say before we go?
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay. Well, I want to end this
I'm trying to get her involved in one of our ST2K gaming videos, but she is incredibly shy, even though she's on here right now.
Yeah, well, it's probably because we're talking about something that she's like, oh yeah, I got some stories to tell, like, so yeah, I thought Jamie's girlfriend at the time years ago, she was kind of shy too, but she participated a little bit in videos here and there. And the movies podcast, favorite movies podcast, that's when she really, or favorite TV shows podcast, one of those, she came out of her shell because that's what she really, really wanted to talk about. So maybe it all comes down to whatever game we do. I'm not going to do Pokemon, but if we ever do Pokemon or anything, it probably depends on what game we do to where she's like, oh yeah, I'm in.
Had you been doing Ocarina of Time on ST2K, she might have been involved in that. She actually recently played it herself. But with like Twilight Princess or anything else, she would probably be like I was with Darkman and just diss on the game or make fun of what she was seeing because she never played it. Although Zelda's awesome, Darkman not so much.
Yeah, really. Okay, so before we wrap this up, I wanted to end this on a high note real quick. I did say that I got a compliment from the regional manager before he left, but also I feel like I should at least say something positive about a job experience. I mean, doing a great job experience podcast is not as fun, but I think I should mention some of that stuff here, just to end on a positive note. It was a few months ago. Since day one, Old Chicago has been appreciating me the entire time, but it's good when you get a manager or regional manager give you compliments, but it makes it a little bit better when a random guest that you don't know is give you compliments. And I'm a busser. I'm not waiting on anybody. I'm waiting tables and doing whatever. All I'm doing is cleaning tables, bussing tables, and I posted this on the Facebook my Facebook about a month or so ago when it happened. I was just cleaning tables one night, and this woman comes up to me at random and says, I've been here before. This is my second time. I've noticed that you work very hard, and I noticed you're really, really working hard. I just want to let you know that. Like, wow, you're doing a great job. And I was like, thank you. I appreciate that. And to me, I'm just like, I'm just busting tables. I'm just doing my job. I mean, I didn't think anybody would notice that. I mean, other than managers, of course, and coworkers, but a random guest noticing someone cleaning the table. To me, I kind of like, well, what's the big deal?
I actually have have my own little positive spin. That reminds me of something that happened years ago. I hadn't been at the airport that long. We weren't as big as we are now. And this couple, man and this lady, I guess they had been delayed, or maybe it was since the expansion. Yeah, it must have been because the building's bigger. They must have been delayed, and I think they had gone to several of our units, or maybe one into the building and then the other because they are switch flights or whatever. But they said that all day long they could see me bouncing. That's how they put it. We've seen you bouncing all over this building today. And they're like, you got to be one hard worker to deal with all this stuff at the same time. And I'm like, well, thank you very much. And they shook my hand, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I've had like also at Old Chicago, like other guests have kind of said the same thing too. Like one guy stopped me, and I thought he wanted a refill or trying to find his server or whatever. He was sitting down at his table, and he said, "Yeah, I just wanted to." He goes, "Are you a waiter here?" I said, "Oh no, sir, I'm a busser." "Oh well, man, I want to let you know you're doing a good job." And then there's this couple that comes in. When I first talked to him, when we first opened, I was making sure, like, because they sat down and did not have any drinks yet, or they hadn't been taken care of yet. So I made sure they got taken care of. I gave them their drinks and stuff, and then the server came over and took over. They come in a few months later, and they see me clean tables, and they said, "Hey, when did you get demoted?" And I said, "I'm sorry." "Yeah, weren't you a manager?" I said, "No, I'm a busser. I've always been a busser." "Oh, we thought you were a manager. Last time we came in here." So like guys, the way I took care of them, they really thought I was a manager. And I've gotten that before in other restaurants. People think I'm a manager, and I'm just a busser walking around. And that's a compliment because, like, apparently I look professional in what I do. And like, wow, that means a lot.
That's great.
Yeah,
I've been told the same thing, I guess, because the airport's a pretty big building when you're really working hard. And I guess when I'm in the zone and I have a lot to do, when I'm walking at full speed down the terminal, I look really pissed off. So people have often asked me, like, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm thinking," because I got like 5-6 restaurants I got to do stuff at the same time, essentially. So I got to plan everything out in my head.
Yeah.
And I will say this. I know we've been talking about the bad stuff. That's what this podcast is all about. But for the record, just in case anyone, who knows me or works with me hears this, and even if they don't, just to say it, I do love my job. And that's the truth. I get a lot out of it. I put as much as I can into it. I love the physicality of my job. It keeps me fit. It makes me feel good about myself. I love the people I work with. For the most part, I like the people I work for. Like I said, I've been there 10 years. I have no desire to leave. August 7th of this year will make 10 years I've been there.
And you met me.
And I'm saving that for last. And my manager even said one time when I called out or had to go home sick that it took 4 people to fill my place. And that made me feel really good. And actually, the other night, I was escorting a couple of guys who were putting new security cameras in. And because of airport rules, we have to make sure that they're always in line of sight because they have tools and all that stuff. And I was trying to help the dishwasher who was closing for me, and I was about to leave the kitchen to go out and get something or put something away. And my manager was like, you need to stay in the kitchen because you don't want, to get in trouble or anything like that, leaving those guys by themselves. And I'm like, oh, I'm just trying to help him. And she's like, I know, but I don't want you to risk anything because I cannot afford to lose you. I need you, especially with summer coming up. And that really made me feel good. And when she gave me my review last year, we sat down and she said probably the nicest thing that anyone has ever said to me. She said that because last summer was the busiest summer we've ever had at that airport since I've been there. Like record sales, I think record attendance, record passengers going through. And we were all shorthanded all summer long, every position, no joke, including us. I was there till like 1:30 multiple nights a week. And she even said to me, she's like, I don't know how we would have survived this summer without you. And that really made me feel good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, compliments like that, high morale makes you want to work harder.
Exactly.
And Johnny Carino's, I bashed that job like crazy, but they were good. Before it got bad, there were great times there, and I was appreciated. Even to the very end, I was at least appreciated. And when I first worked there, I worked there 3 different times. My third tenure in 2000, no, it's my second tenure, 2011. I got my review after being there 3 months, and the manager said I scored perfect in this one section where I forgot what it's called, but they said he said some people would ask who's bussing tables tonight, and the manager would go Ronnie, and they go, oh, thank God, and that I make people happy just by being there. And Valentine's Day 2014, geez, if you work in the restaurant business, certain restaurants, that is, Valentine's Day is one of the busiest of the year. And Johnny Carino's was freaking busy on Valentine's Day. It was a perfect date restaurant. And so I was mainly doing stuff in the back because, they had bussers do some of that kitchen BS, which we should not have done. But, it was my job and I did it. And the GM, before I left, the GM said, Ronnie, thanks for your work tonight. Without you, the whole busing system here would not be the same. And I was their busser trainer too, by the way. And I mean, I was pretty much, their top busser, and compliments like that really, made me feel great, and I appreciate it. And there's another time at Carino's, I think before that, I asked for a raise. Usually, like you said, they have to go through corporate to make sure you get your raise. This guy either there was corporate changes or he didn't care, because he was the GM, and I asked if I could possibly have a raise, and he goes, well, how much you get paid right now? This amount. All right, well, you got it. Now you're at this amount. Whoa. I expected him to say, all right, we'll get back to you. I'll talk to him. No, he goes, all right, you got it. And then there you go. My next paycheck already got a raise. It was on there. I was like, wow. That really
That's
made me
really
feel more
cool.
motivated. Yeah, that was ECW.
And the manager, because our main manager, the guy who hired me, he actually left us about a year ago, I think. Wow, it's already been a year. And a while back, I think it was a couple of years ago, we had trouble finding people to because we at least like to have 3 guys in my position. One guy who opens 5 days a week, someone who closes 5 days a week, which is me, and someone to cover the 4 extra shifts. And we were having trouble finding that person, so he upped the starting pay by, I think, 25 cents. And he didn't do this for everyone. He came up to me. He asked me to keep it quiet because he didn't want to cause any trouble, of course, you know how people are. But he said to me, you work so hard, you've been here so long, I'm going to bump you up that 25 cents. He said, it's only fair. And I really appreciated that. And I know what you mean about people. And Nikita has told me this, that when there are some nights when I'm not there, that people, like, they know it apparently. I mean, I can't say because I'm not there. But like last week, I had to go in late to escort, both last week and the week before, to escort guys putting cameras in because it's so late in the night. I came in like 6:30 to do that. So I wasn't there during the busiest part of the day. And apparently someone asked Nikita, is Mikey here? And she said no. And I guess
They groaned.
they rolled their eyes or groaned or something like that. Like, oh man. And I've been to all summer long, like I said, how busy it was. Every Wednesday, which is my Monday, they would literally, everyone would say, oh, thank God you're here.
You even got hugs.
Yeah, I even got hugs. And I don't know what to say when people say that stuff to me. To me, my job is easy as shit because I've been doing it so long. It's like second nature to me, and
Yeah.
and when I train someone, because I'm also the trainer, I'm the lead, I try to give them confidence that they can do it too. I take them step by step through what I do. I say, if you have any questions, you ask me. I've heard it all. I've done it all. I've made every mistake. I've done, everything that you could possibly do, good or bad, in my job, I've done because I've been there so long. And that number one thing I emphasize, though, is that what I do works for me. Everyone has their own way of doing things, and if you can find a way that works better for you, you go ahead. And that's another thing the managers say to me, that we know when we hire someone, all we have to do is put them with you, no instruction whatsoever, pretty much, because they just tell me what shift they want that they're going to put them on, and I will be able to tell them exactly what'll happen, exactly what to do, and they trust me. And I think that's because when what they're basically saying, again, I know this is supposed to be a negative podcast, but fuck, too much negativity in the world. We need some good
That's
stuff.
the positivity, just like the New Day.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get the horns. She said to me that by putting the new person with me, that takes a load off their shoulders because they know that person will be taken care of to the best of my ability. And that says a lot to me because no matter what the position, when you are putting someone, a brand new person, especially who's never done this type of work before, with someone, you're basically putting the future of your business, at least part of it, with someone. So you really have to make sure that person knows what they're doing. And I do know what I'm doing, and with few exceptions. There have been some people that don't listen, that have issues. But for the most part, most of the people I train are fairly receptive, so that when they're on their own, hopefully they at least have the confidence, or at least get by, basically. But there have been a couple of people over the years that just nailed it, that took to it like a duck takes to water, and I had so much fun working with those guys, even during the busiest shifts. There was this one guy, Young was his name. This guy was the best. Busy nights, he and I would be working at that dish machine. One of us would be loading, the other would be unloading. Without even looking at each other, we'd switch. And we'd never get in each other's way. We were so good. It was like we were like, pick me a good wrestling tag team. We were like Hawk and Animal. We were that good.
To be the Dudley boys, I'm a buster. I be putting people through tables. They piss me off instead of cleaning them.
Testify.
Yeah. And actually, it was funny. At Carino's, I trained this guy named Zeke, a young 17-year-old, hardworking kid. And we complained about most kids that age, self-entitled generation, is lazy, don't do their work. This kid was the opposite. You would think he was in his 30s or something, fully matured. He's 17 years old, and I trained him, and it was so easy to train him. He was always respectful, did everything he was asked, worked his butt off, and he's only 17. And I was telling people, man, this 17-year-old kid right here, I mean, he's done more than other people that I trained that were older than him. I mean, man, this guy's good. And the thing is, like, some people think busting, though, is too easy. Like, I mean, again, it's easy, but some people think it's, like, not hard work at all and that you don't need any training to do it. All restaurants are different. There's different policies, there's different side work, closing, opening duties. I was training this guy this week at Old Chicago, and one of the waitresses said, how do you train a buster? You just take the place to the dish pit. I said, the server looked at her. No, there's a lot more to it than that.
That's right.
You got to learn the table numbers, where to put stuff put stuff where they belong, how to organize the dish pit, where to put silverware at, where to get toilet paper, paper towels when we check the restroom, where to put the ketchup bottles, where to get the mop, and where's the ice machine at. There's several different things to learn, not just you take plates to the dish pit and that's it. Not that easy. Okay,
That's right. And I find, and you'll relate to this, I feel doing our type of work, the actual physical act of doing it is not tough. Where the challenge is, and where some people flame out, is the mental capacity. Keeping, like, planning steps ahead. You got to do this, but you know you're going to have to do this. You got to do this now because you know you're going to get busy for dinner or lunch. So, you know, and so on and so forth. So I think that's where because like, when it comes to cleaning, like really deep cleaning, like late night project stuff, I'm not the best at deep cleaning. I feel like my best asset is that mental capacity, being able to plan the day out and organize stuff and make sure, okay, this is what I got to do. This is when I got to do it. This is what I'm going to do tomorrow. Because like I said, I got several different units and different jobs I have to do with each one. So I got to plan this shit out. And I feel like that's where I shine the best.
Yeah. And no matter where you're working, I want to say that I love my job right now. Old Chicago. It's definitely a breath of fresh air compared to what I had last year. But there's still frustrating times. There's no such thing as a perfect bed of roses job. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have good days. You're going to have people that are going to frustrate you or piss you off. But like my friend Dagger told me, like with Old Chicago, you know, when there's a few things I was unhappy with, he goes, well, or even if a day where I don't feel like working, just mentally I'm like not there, he goes, well, at least you're going to a job that you don't hate. And I said, yeah, that's true. It could be worse. I could be in a bad mood going to a job I despise. And, yeah, so it's if you hate a job bad enough, just try your best to look for another one actively. And that's all I can say, because that's how I endured the jobs I hate over the years. I would just tough it out until I found something better and hope for the best. And there's a lot of horrible job experiences, but there's still a lot of good experiences out there. It just depends on the job you have and the management you work for.
That's right.
All right, so that is the end of our Horrible Job Experiences podcast, the 4th edition. And for those of you who haven't listened, the first one got lost somewhere. There's a whole BS story to that, but I think part 1 of that might still be uploaded from 2009. But parts 2 and 3 are uploaded in its entirety on YouTube on the ST2K channel. Part 2 is in different parts because that was in the time limit days. Part 3 from last year is uploaded as one in its entirety. So check those stories out, especially Part 2, J-Man's Pizza Hut story. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if Nikki's heard that, but you might want to take a listen to that. I have. Okay, yeah, that was not ECW. Oh, man. And so, all right, thank you, Tibbs, and thank you, Nikki, for joining for the first time. And
Thank you.
We say see you later. I'm Ronmower. God bless. Take care.